This episode is proudly brought to you by Optimum Financial Services Group. Optimum has the expertise to guide you through investment, tax, retirement, and estate planning, with a tailored solution to your individual needs. Our objective is to provide you with an optimum solution to protect your wealth. Optimum has expertise in medical aid, legal services, asset finance, and short-term insurance, as well as specialized services in commercial, marine, aviation, and personal liability. Don't choose the average, choose Optimum. Optimum Financial Services Group is an authorized financial services provider. Well, good afternoon to you. Today, a special Heritage Day edition from High Performance Teams. My name is Alex McPhail. I'm proudly wearing the Springbok rugby jersey, the South African flag you can see behind me too on my left-hand side here. I've got a very special guest, a friend and colleague from South African Airways. Freek Villiers and I served together at South African Airways for 12 years. He's got more than 2 decades of flying, a whole host of different flying types, and continues to keep his hand in now. He's got a special skill and passion and a business which has grown into the main thing, restoring classic BMW motorcycles. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into passion. We're going to get into heritage. And our heritage shared at this point is South Africa, South African Airways. So let's get to it. Join me. Ask your questions. You're part of the show too. Freek, very warm welcome. Thank you for joining. How are you today?
Hey, Alex. Thanks for having me, man. All good. Nice day for Brian. So can only get better.
Okay, yeah, I've organized the children to light the fire at 2:30. So when we finish here, it'll just be ready for a quick cleanup, put some meat on, and away we go for this afternoon. It's a special day. Heritage Day is a kind of special day in South Africa, isn't it?
Indeed. Yeah, it's gone dead now, but I've got a little iPad fire going here. So, I suppose sometimes we celebrate it for the wrong reasons, but any reason to braai is a reason to braai. So it's good.
That's good. And I love your man cave. You were showing me around earlier before we went live, some nice pictures, nice memorabilia. Do you go and print these things? Do you buy these things? How do you stock up such beautiful stuff?
It's a bit of a suppose call it I'm going to say rather a passion than anything else. It's a bit of a sickness. I tend to troll all the classic stores. What do you call it? The memorabilia stores and that kind of stuff. So quite a few around in Cape Town. I love just going around and seeking things of relevance and add it to my cave.
No, it's nice. It's a nice cave, and I see pictures of your airplane. We're going to get to all these little things now too, but let's just, for the purposes of the listeners joining, just frame this conversation. So 12 years at South African Airways. We joined within a few weeks of each other. We did a couple of flights together. I think we did our first crew resource management course together, 11 years ago. It was a good journey. It was fun. And you have recently left. So maybe that's a journey that I'm about to embark on. I have a couple of days left before I hand back my permit. But you have left. And that's where this conversation teed off the other day when I reached out to you, figuring out how it went. And so before we get to the end, let's talk about the childhood dream. I mean, as South Africans, as keen aviators, South African pilots, as a kid, wanting to fly, South African Airways was it. That orange tail flying all over the world, it was the dream.
Was the dream and still is, eh? It's, as well as I do, it is probably the best airline to work for. I mean, I hope our bosses aren't listening, but I have not worked a day in my life, so it's been fun and adventure since day one, and I guess that's what it should be about, eh?
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, so the idea, firstly, so the concept. I mean, as a child, we're going to dig into your sort of approach to where you started with flying. I know you got an interesting story. Also, growing up in Cape Town. My father lived overseas, and we traveled quite a bit as my sister and I visiting, and I got to fly with South African Airways internationally as a very small unaccompanied minor, and I got to see that from the other side. But this idea of being in a large, significant international airline, it's the second oldest airline in the world, and it was a privilege to get in. A lot of people wanted to and didn't get in, and we had the privilege of getting in, and we enjoyed it. And then we got some people joining us. Here's Rihanna saying, "Good afternoon, Bok and Bok." So thanks for joining us, Rihanna.
So we should maybe just say who she is. Some people call her our travel agent, but she's the lady that when she phones you, you know you're going somewhere. So on standby or whatever, Rihanna will give you a shout, and your life's about to change for the next 3 days or 5 days. So hello, Rihanna.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so as a child, I mean, you're obviously keen to fly, but where did it, like, as an adolescent, as the formative years hit, where did it kind of sort of shape up for you?
Geez, Alex, I actually can't even remember. It's always been there. So it wasn't a day or an event or anything that triggered it. Most people say, oh, they went to the small plane when they were 5, 6, or 10 years old and they remember it. I really don't even know. It's almost as if it was part of me since the very beginning. And I do not have any aviation related relatives or in the airline or anything like that. So it's always just been there. I've always drawn airplanes, built airplanes out of Lego. I remember, I think my folks were quite keen for me to just explore other things as well. And they'll buy me a Lego boat, and I'll somehow turn that into an airplane. So it's going to end up flying. We also, making little plastic model kits, and then I was very lucky. My dad was quite big to radio control airplanes, so that is an amazing way to start off. Not just flying them, but building them. And if you do a bad job, it's going to reflect in your flying. So it's always been just an amazing journey. And I was lucky enough to, at about the age of 18, I think it was, final year of school, my dad could see that, okay, this is going somewhere. So he was quite keen on the project. He's always built crazy stuff, cars, and I suppose that's where the petrol head side of my life started. But I just remember getting in the car and the big trailer and going to, I think it was Naboomspruit back in the day. Probably still is called that, unless it's had a name change as well. And he bought a Bush Baby, very similar to the American Kit Fox, which is a rag and tube airplane. And that's how it all started. We built it at home in the garage. And that's basically, I did my PPL and I started flying that. It was just amazing. So, and here I am. I don't even know, I blinked when I'm here.
So 25 years later, and you can looking back, and now you have your own little airplane and your own kids, and certainly we've got pictures of you taking your kids flying as well. So we're going to get to that too. More of our friends and colleagues are joining us. So I just want to say hello to everybody as they join us. Albert was on pilot's course with me. Albert, awesome channel. Thanks. Fran's joining us. Gear Up as we kicked off the show. Thomas is joining us. Ansel. Adolf's joining. Jared Oliver, one of my first students in the Air Force, my first flying instructor. Hey, Alex. How's it, Jared? Gideon, a man who we have both worked with before. Gideon Langevaart, dagse collega's. Thank you for joining, Gideon. Very well respected individual indeed. We had him on the show a few months ago. And so it's been a journey. And okay, so you started young with your dad, and he brought you into. Did he also fly? I mean, when you built this thing, had he already learned to fly? Did he learn to fly?
Never.
He just built this airplane and let you learn to fly.
He's 73 today, and if he's a bit like when the dog hears the car keys, it's the same. When he hears the hanger keys, then he's there, and he loves to join and fly. But amazingly, he loves to build stuff, I suppose, and I just get to play with it and fly it. It's amazing. Yeah, he's never actually followed his aviation interest in that way. So quite interesting, I suppose, isn't it?
But it's nice to be able to share that with you. You've got a bit of a common bond. You've built something together, and it's enabled you to have this life that you have now. And again, you share it on with your kids. So that is quite amazing. Okay, so you get into flying, and I wouldn't say it's an unusual route that you took, but certainly it's a route, getting into corporate flying is a route that allows you to fly high-performance aircraft like jets, high altitude, long distances. It's fast, and flying at a youngish age, you get onto Learjets, and I mean, I don't know all your aircraft type, but certainly flying fast corporate jets at a young age it's quite an eye-opener, and it's not conventional. But it is a great way of going, and your career kind of ramps up quickly. So talk us through that experience.
I think if you speak to anyone doing their license now in Cape Town, they'll say it's a lie, because it's amazing how aviation's changed in Cape Town. Not for the better, corporate aviation specifically, but you know the story. I haven't even asked you, but I'm sure yours is the same as most oaks. They say, what do you say to a freshly qualified commercial pilot? I'd like fries with that. So you're not going to get a job. You're qualified. You are legally a commercial pilot. Your hours are all the way down. Insurance won't cover you. it's the most difficult barrier just to break through and get somewhere. And I don't know. I just had to breathe airplanes, and I thought, well, the next best thing would be to just be at the airport. So instead of looking like a crazy lurker, I applied for any job, and I was very fortunate to actually work for. It was then called Cape Aviation Business Centre, which is an FBO, a fixed-based operation, and they now called Signature Aviation, a bit like ExecuJet, so a one-stop shop. Red carpet kind of deal. And I was a ramp rat. So push airplanes around, clean things, push it around. And that evolved into helping out. I became a refueler for Air BP. Amazing. Just to be, connected to these pilots and these guys flying these amazing jets. And I loved it. It was amazing just to be around. And you're always stuck on that side of the airport. You can't go to where the big planes are. You're not welcome there. So you just stay where the little ones are. And it turned out to be just something I took a keen interest in, maybe because exactly that, I wasn't around the big airlines, but I get to play with all these corporate jets, and when the pilots and the owners go home, I go and sit inside it, pretend to spit on the window and flying it, and it was just amazing. And the amazing people I met back in the day are still friends of mine, and I think they also see where I've come from, in terms of not scared to work and do any job, just to be in aviation. So, just work my way up. You take any job, and as you know, you're not going to get rewarded financially. You just do it. Doesn't matter. I get to fly along. And that's how it started. Flying, before you know it, you're on a 210. That was my first flying job.
And that was a Cessna 210. It's retractable, it's high performance. Some of them are pressurized. That's a big step up for when you get your commercial license.
That is high performance, man. Yeah. And to give you an idea, that's not even allowed now, I think, anymore. You can't charter on singles, especially in IFR at night. Yeah. So that was my job. The boss said to me, "Here's a 210. I need you to fly between Cape Town and Villiers. Are you serious? You're going to pay me for this? Fine, let's do it." And some days it seems like a nice day, so you do it at low level, and some days you go high level, which is 10,000 feet. But that's how it started. It was amazing.
Okay. Well, that's good. Now I want to highlight a specific point here, which comes through. I mean, this is the 64th episode of this show now, and I've spoken to some wonderful people, and there's a common theme that comes through, which you've touched on here, and just to summarize it in the point that in the beginning, you just show your keenness, your attitude, your willingness to work. You put in the extra hours, you sweep the floor, open the hangar doors. You don't actually know what you're employed as, but you'll do anything. And that willingness and that can-do attitude is the bit that shows you that you have the ability to go on. And that's why they offer you the next job on the 210. And before you know it, you're flying corporate jets, and you built great relationships.
Amazing relationships. And they always say pilots are not. You don't decide you're a pilot. You are just, it's in your nature. It's my wife says it's the weirdest job. You sit through the night on a long haul flight, and, you come back, and she says, but you've never mentioned this guy before. You know everything about him. You just share everything. You're stuck in this tube for 16 hours to New York, wherever you're going, and you just cover everything. And it's just amazing to see other people's perspectives and exactly that. I mean, I'm still friends with everybody that I worked for back in the corporate days, and it's just I'm really, really, really lucky to have been exposed to that. And exactly what you say. My first jet, so I got into turbines quite well, not actually that quickly, maybe 2 years or so. And for those with a, I'm giving my age now, but an extensive aviation history will remember two distinct King Airs that stood out, and it used to be ZS Mum and ZS Ben. So if you don't know, I think they used to be known as two King Airs back in the day. They're so old. They were the first two King Airs around, and that was my first turbine. And before I knew it, I was flying a Lear 45, and it just evolved from there to the most amazing corporate jets. So.
Okay, and you're talking about those relationships. I want to just bring in a few more people. Tony Beamish is joining. Hello, Alex. Hello, Freek. Thanks for joining. Tony, Jared says he's in PE. Jeremy Thompson, he's obviously loving your story so far. Jeremy, you haven't even got into it yet. The wow is still coming. Mauro saying hello. Andy Bremner joining us from London. Greetings from London. Enjoy the bride. Another great colleague of ours, friend from the airline, who also had some great flights with Andy. Ian Finley, one of the head guys at South African Express. Ian is also working with me on another project. Afternoon, gents. How's it, Ian? And there's some banter going on between Ian and Andy, and Sandy Bain has joined us as well. How's it, Sandy, joining us? And he's saying hello, Ian. So it's a bit of a reunion going on here. Justin Derooks joining us, Craig Wood, and everybody is chirping in. It's great to have these comments. So bring in your questions if you have anything specific. Otherwise, this is going to be a crew room conversation, and we'll just keep going. I want to fast forward a bit because you got to a point where we said before the show, you got to having built the good relationships, being the ramp rat as you spoke of, showing that you can work and building those strong connections. Years down the line, if you drifted off and you came back, somebody offered you a job, not just any job, but straight away as the captain on a 737. Now, to put it into perspective for those who are not pilots or not yet pilots, a 737 was the dream job, wasn't it? I mean, a fluffy, and they're going to put you straight into the left seat. Wow.
Look, it's just, again, like you said, the people, one of the guys that I flew with on the corporate jet, we flew a Gulfstream out of Cape Town, and, you know, all these jets were out of Cape Town. It's unheard of. It is the most amazing place to fly, as you know. Yeah. And these jets and these gents, you know, you just fly with these amazing people, and things get sold and you move on, and, you know, pilots kind of scatter when the airplane gets sold in corporate, and so you find what you can and you carry on, and, you know, and it was just amazing to get a phone call from him about a year and a half later, and I was, believe it or not, freelancing in Cape Town. I mean, that's probably unheard of now, you know, this day and age. There's just no work, but I was spoiled for choice. It was amazing. And he phoned me one day and he said, listen, would you like a permanent position? And he was with a company in Johannesburg flying 737-200s. And I thought, you know, this is definitely a step in the right direction. So I said, when do I start? He said, well, come for an interview. And that was the next day. Flew up. And halfway through the interview, he said, you know, but now you've flown all these corporate jets. You think you'll be okay running a charter, you know, like a charter airplane with 4 or 5 crew in the back and going to weird and wonderful places as a commander? And I said, I was unaware that this is a captain's position interview. So, you know, a lot of guys will remember Swayze Maria. I'm sure there's a couple of giggles in the background now. Swayze is an amazing guy. And he was on the interview as well. And he ended up doing my 737 training through Comair Sims. And then another, to give you an idea, this is the kind of thing. You don't see Swayze, but he was at my bachelor's party. So that's how it works. Yeah. So it was just amazing. And I got an opportunity to fly 737s, and it was unreal. So, like you say, it's still the best airplane. You can actually put a case of beer on every landing, other than the 737-800s we flew later on. This was a bit of a hit and miss.
Well, Gideon, who's joining us on the show, was my instructor on the 77 on the freighter, the 200 and the 300, and that was a lot of fun. But mostly we flew at night and leather jackets and just 2 pilots doing cargo runs. It was a lot of fun. Brian Spurs joining us. Hello, Alex and Freek. And so guys, keep your comments and questions coming alive. We're going to carry on the conversation. Now let's fast forward to where we are now in the same kind of stage and age of our life. And within a few weeks of each other, we joined this magnificent South African Airways. And so you had come in having flown 737s, which I suppose is a nice sort of bed down experience, coming in knowing that you might fly a 737 again. It's a similar thing, different airline, but you got the concept of what it's about. I came off flying a PC-7 in the Air Force, you know, a small little single 2-seater, high-performance airplane, but small and very basic in terms of systems, onto the A340 as a boy pilot. But tell me about that start, like, you know, the dream job. Welcome, you're coming in and you jacket and tie, and you get issued your uniform, and this is it, walking down the corridors, meeting people like Hawk, etc.
And look, it was actually a little bit surreal. I'll go back a little bit before that even. 2 years prior to, I'm sure we all wasted many trees constructing CV Simulator SAA. And I clearly remember, having an interview with SAA, and I went, did the psychometrics, did the sim test, did everything, and they never phoned me back. And I thought, well, clearly I sucked. So, you know, you just kind of carry on with life. And I was flying corporate jet at the time then. And I then got this job flying 737s out of Johannesburg. And I'll never forget it. We were doing, we were coming back from a place called Lichinga in northern Mozambique. And we came.
All right, we've got a bit of tech issue there. Let's see if he can join us again. I see John Foster Pedley's joining us well. That connection makes its way again. Let me do this for now. Okay, so John, thanks for joining us. John Foster Pedley, the Dean of the Business School, Henley Business School in Joburg, which is a prestigious MBA program, one of the best MBA programs the last couple of years, and also had a great chat with John recently, the last couple of weeks, months even by now. Hey, Alex, interesting. Thanks. Yeah, it is interesting. I hope we get Freek back on the line. And we've had these kind of hiccups before. So before we make any premature movements of cancelling the show, let's just give him a chance to connect back in once more. Ian, I know your question is coming there, and it's for Freek. So let's see if we can get Freek back on the line here quickly. Oh, he's gone. Let's see if he's just resetting his phone and coming in from the beginning. John, it's been fun. I hope you are sitting with a glass of wine or a beer and your braai and not working. I know that you guys have been working feverishly at the last gasp during creating online content for the business program with the COVID situation. Let's see if Freek can join us again once more. We can go back to some of the earlier comments. So Ian, you made a comment earlier too about Ramprat Route teaches aviation from the ground up, as well as humility, appreciation, and exposure to different types of folks. That's it, exactly, Ian. And it really is. It's a common theme that I see with these people, these sort of high performers, that you learn the humility from the ground up, but you also learn the roles as you go too. And sometimes if you get in too high up early on, you might miss out a critical step of understanding what the people are up to on the ground level. So yeah, I agree with you completely. It's a good approach to get people into the system. All right, we're still running through some tech gremlins there. Let me just check in if you can get in on the phone call side. All right, just give me a moment. Just check in with him on the phone. See if he can join us once more. Freek is joining us from his motorcycle hangar, which is what we're going to get to. Look at these great pictures of motorbikes that he has restored. And this is a part of the conversation we want to get to now. He has a contract with BMW to be the sort of lead partner in Classic. Aha, there he's coming back into stream. How's it, Freek? Are you there again? Are you with us? I'm busy showing off pictures of your motorbike. Can you hear?
You're back.
There we go. Okay, cool. Glad I got you back there.
I am with you.
Awesome. Okay, Freek. There's lots of comments coming through. People are enjoying it. We've got the Dean of the Business School of Henley Business School, which is a great MBA program.
Yeah, you well.
That the
so now we don't have to touch on aviation technology, eh? If it doesn't work, turn it off, turn it on. It's working.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. But you were saying, so we all went through that journey of putting in lots of CVs, didn't get in, but and then what was the next stage where I lost you there? Going through a mountain of trees. Oh no. You there, Freek?
You're breaking up a little bit. I just want to check that you can hear me. There.
Yeah, I'm hearing you, but it's a bit garbled at the moment.
There we go. Perfect. It's back.
Okay, go for it. All right, so.
Alex, can you hear me?
Yes, go for it, Freek.
Yeah, I don't know why. Is it my side or your side?
Not sure, but carry on.
Yeah, so I don't know where I lost you guys, but I was sitting in the crew bus and I got this. I was sitting in the crew bus and I got a call from one of the we all know the big cheeses at SAA, one of the big instructors, and he phoned me and he said, "Hello, listen, do you still want the job with SAA?" And I thought, you've got to be. I said, "Really? Who's this? Who's joking?" And he said, "No, this is Captain Dennis Spence playing a joke." But he said, "Yeah, we'll send you the information now." And yeah, I went to the interview and I looked a little bit obviously befuddled, and so they said, "Are you okay?" I said, "No, I'm just curious." was in the same room 2 years ago, and I thought I wasn't good enough, and here I am. And they said, no, that intake got cancelled. We never took people, and here we are again. So going through the list. So yeah, let's just do another interview and another subject. So it was all surreal, and I don't know about you, Alex, but you sit in an airplane halfway through the night over the Atlantic or somewhere 10 years later, and you think, what a day. So it's quite something.
It is. It really is something. Okay, so we lost you a little bit there, but I got the gist of it, this idea that you were called in for a second interview, and yes, that was a common occurrence. Some people had 6 years between the interview and actually joining, and that's the ups and downs stories. But even those people will tell you it's been a surreal journey, and you can just see the people that are tuning in and making comments now. It's been a wonderful journey in South African Airways. Really a great place, and that's why we moved the show to Thursday, thinking we'll make this a bit of a Heritage Day celebration of the airline, and just we've had a couple of flights together. I think we did a Frankfurt flight, Munich, I can't remember. It was a Germany flight, probably Frankfurt, because that's where you go for your motorcycle parts a couple of years ago. And, it's talking about staying awake all night and talking. Yeah. And so tell me about the motorcycle. So let's get into that. So 7 or so years ago, you decide it's time to start tinkering around with motorcycles. How did that start? Obviously, you like building things, but why BMW motorcycles and why Airheads? Or where's the passion in that?
It actually goes back a little bit more than 7 years, a little bit more. But I remember my wife fell pregnant with the first one, and I said, I obviously need to be home. I was on the domestic then, flying for SA on the domestic. I met her on a SA night stop, by the way, my very first night stop in SA in Cape Town, with old Trevor Bernberg, another legend in the airline. So he said, it's Cape Town, it's where you're from, so you organized the party, and we ended up going out, a whole bunch of friends. But it was, I remember she fell pregnant, and I said, look, I need to start a little project of some sorts just to be at home and just also be out the way. So I just went through the classifieds. You kind of look for, I always had a love for motorcycles. I could ride a motorcycle before I could ride a bicycle, and I've still got that very first 1979 model bike. But I just and looked at what was for sale and what I could afford, and this classic BMW just popped up, and I looked at this, and it wasn't a great model. It was in fact a 1979, same as my birth year. So I thought, there's a connection. That seems pretty cool. And ironically, that's the exact same engine that we put in the plane I was talking about earlier. We were the first people to stick in a motorcycle boxer twin, 1000cc boxer twin into an airplane. So there was a bit of a connection. So I thought, hey, this is the writing is, the signs are there. So bought it, and then just kind of started chopping it and doing my own thing, and from my garage at home, and loved it, and then started riding it, and I was stopped by a couple of people saying, listen, do you want to sell your bike? I'm like, no, not really. But where did you get it from? So now I built it. Well, can you build me one? And that's really how it started. My dad had then recently, a couple of years before that, retired, and I said to him, listen, I can't do this on my own. Come, let's do this. Help me out. And I pulled him out of retirement, if you want to say so, and we started just doing these classic BMW motorcycles. A lot of the stuff you just don't find people being able to help you, like rebuilding carburetors and lacing wheels and that kind of thing. So it just got to a point where I just gave up asking and just figured it out myself. And
I want to just pause you there. Now, you're the aficionado. I don't know if you can still see the screen. I know we have some tech issues, but yes. the blue motorcycle. Okay, so is this an example of one of the earlier ones that you got involved in, or is it evolved? Or maybe just talk us through this example here. What kind of state would it have arrived in, and what's the stuff that you are a specialist at? I know you do detailed paint work, etc. But tell me about this story on this one.
Yeah, so Alex, basically we do absolutely everything here, except we don't have the facilities to powder coat, which we don't do anyway, because none of these bikes were powder coated back in the day. So we don't do powder coating, and we don't do chrome. So the chrome we outsource. Other than that, it rides in here, and it leaves like you see it in the pic. The one in the pic is a 1974 called a /5 or the 5 Series BMWs. And yeah, exactly what you see there. Absolutely nut and bolt restoration. Everything is rebuilt from the from the entire engine. The paintwork is taken down to the bone. I've got a spray booth upstairs, and it was just me. I was a one-man band, just a passion. And people started phoning me saying, just like I couldn't find anyone doing the work, they would phone me and say, "Can you help me?" Not really, but okay. And you do the first kind of month or 3 for free, and then you realize, maybe there's a bit of a business opportunity here. So you just start off small, and it was really just me until about 2 years ago. And then I woke up one day and my wife said, "You have too much stuff. Something's got to go." So I didn't at the time think she meant the motorbikes, but anyway, so I just moved to a little factory, and then we started building there, and it's just been, I don't know, like my flying. You just wake up and you got all this stuff.
Yeah.
And
okay, I want to pause you there, Freek, because you're mentioning so many things that I want to zoom in on. But before I do that, this picture I now put up, I'm highlighting it. It's a great pic. It shows the detail, but if I remember correctly, you told me you paint this black line around the tank by hand. Is that right?
We do, yeah. I try and stay as close as possible to the day it left Munich. And one of the things, obviously, I think the biggest difference is it used to be ladies. Ladies have got a steady hand and an eye for detail, but you just don't find sign writers anymore, and you can't spray that in. Well, you can obviously, but that's not period correct. So yeah, you just end up teaching yourself whatever you need to know, and exactly like you say, it's painted, and when it's completely painted, then I add the little badge and the side, like you see there, the toolbox door, and then that gives me perspective on where the line should go, and then they just get painted on afterwards, exactly like they used to be back in the day. Yeah.
But it's amazing, and the detail is there, and it just really highlights to me the passion that you have for this, because that's not just someone doing a little job. That's a major job, to make sure it's neat. I mean, I don't think I have a steady enough hand for that kind of work. But the bit I wanted to highlight before, the bit I wanted to highlight was, okay, so you make this first project of yours. It's a success. Clearly, you're driving around and people are asking you about it, and then somebody asks you to do one for me, and then it's another one for me, and those are for free. But the third time this thing comes across your desk, then you realize, hang on, there's something else going on here. And that's really the bit that I think somewhere over Algeria, we were talking about this a couple of years ago. And it's the bit that stands out when I think about you and this project. I mean, as a 16-year-old at school doing maths and science, you didn't think about one day having a classic BMW restoration business. But here you are today. Life's taken a different journey. You've left South African Airways. This was a passion that grew into a business, and now it's the main thing, and you have contracts, going 2 years in advance. So just talk me through this idea of when someone's knocking on your door, how do you recognize it? And then what steps do you have to take to action it? I mean, just because the third person knocks doesn't mean you can make it a business. There's a whole different skill set now required once you've recognized it.
I suppose I'm a bit of a slow learner. It was way more than 3 knocks. I just kept going, but like you say, the passion takes over, and you just want to help everybody and just get these classics back on the road. But the main thing for me, and it still is, people will come in, they'll walk through the door and ask me about, can you restore my motorcycle, and immediately I don't go there. I just say, no, before we get there, where's this from? Whose was it? Do you know who owned it? And it's 9 out of 10 times an absolute amazing story. They'll say it was my father's or my grandfather's, and he used to visit my mom in Bloemfontein, and he used to drive 800 kilometers, and it's just amazing stories. And then I'm interested, because now I'm actually reviving history and family, and that's amazing. So yeah, that's like you say, tied with my flying. My suppliers are in Germany, so I became a bit of a Germany regular, as you may know, as most people in the airline know. So so I just loved it, going there, meeting the guys that I always ordered parts from, and just an amazing relationship, with them as well. And then getting the stuff sorted and shipped back, and what I can, I'll bring back if possible. And here we are. We've probably done about definitely in excess of 100 motorcycles, all BMW, all classic. So
wow,
I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure how it all came about and how we got here. But it's just every day is fun, and if it's not fun, then we don't do it. As easy as that.
Okay, so Ian wants to know, how long does the restoration take, Freek, of these motorcycles?
So Ian, it's mainly parts dependent. We've got a bit of a system, so maybe I'll go back one and tell you what we do now.
Cool.
We obviously you strip it down to the last nut and bolt. Some of the stuff's hidden. You can see that's torn, that's broken, that's perished. It needs replacing, which we replace most of the perishables, as I call them anyway. But you might open the engine up and see that it's in need of a new whatever it may be, a conrod or a crank or a piston or this or that. So those things are hidden. You'll only see it when you take it apart. So what we tend to do is do a restoration, and then about 2 weeks or so before I go to Germany normally, which is every week, we will strip that bike to the absolute last nut and bolt and make a list of everything needed, and then I'll fetch it and we come back. But we've gotten to a point now where I am extremely well stocked, and I'll say it with absolute confidence. I know that I'm better stocked than BMW itself in South Africa. They don't specialize in classics at all. We have an amazing relationship with them. They send all the classic work to us. So I'm fairly well stocked. I know exactly what's needed generally. So that we've got. And then I would say it takes about, obviously with SAA, 3 days off between flights. That didn't help much. But right now, doing this as a full-time going concern, this is it. Typically, it takes about, I'd say, 2 months. Also, we work on different projects at the same time, and while you're painting, somebody else brings their paint work in. They just want that done. So I'm unfortunately the guy that paints as well, so that slows it down. However, we had a guy walk in last week, Monday, and he just purchased a early 60s BMW, and it was still on the trailer, and he stopped here and he said, look, I believe you've got some parts. Just walk out with me and just see what we've got, what we need. Maybe you can supply it. And funny enough, he's an ex-aircraft engineer from way back. Joburg, so I don't know him. But bit of a retirement project, I suppose. And then we made a list, and he came inside and he saw what we do for the first time. And he said, do you restore for other people? I said, oh, well, that's part of our business. And he just said, take it off the trailer. It's at the right place. This is it. So, we ended up doing the job for him. And I sat down, and he said, as long as it can be done by the end of October, it's quite a special date. His son's coming home. And we said, we like the challenge. And we ended up, I'm sitting here right now, and the guys are busy inside. We will most probably finish it today. If not today, then tomorrow. But that would be a total of 14 days. So it was a challenge for us to see, if we do nothing else, just do that, how long will it take? And it seemed to be about 2 weeks. Then it's all done.
Okay. All right. Well, that's great. Yeah. I mean, a nuts and bolts restoration in 2 weeks with personalized, detailed painting. That's amazing. That's really good going.
I lost you.
I'm saying, so the 2 week program is that's an amazing turnaround from in and out, including painting and the works. That's wonderful. I think you've gone quiet again. While he goes quiet, let's add some of your comments there. Rihanna joining once again. Two gentlemen I've had the utmost respect for, and what a privilege to have worked with both of you. Thank you, Rihanna. SA surely didn't make a mistake to employ you. Tons of love. Well, thank you, Rihanna. We enjoyed working with you too. And Tony Loebscher is joining us. Tony, in fact, the clip that you saw at the beginning of the show, where we flew into Tarbes, was the last time I flew in South African Airways, and we were on a trip to Europe with Tony. And we spent time in Germany together, and we spent time in quarantine together. We flew together. The flight before that went through to the Philippines together. So thanks for joining, Tony. He's also put me on to some great guests as well. And hi, Freek, awesome talk. What has been your most memorable restoration? No. You're there, Freek. You know what? You need to get fiber optics at your warehouse down there. Get your fiber internet sorted out. So you must have a live restoration show going, one of these live YouTube shows for yourself, and you can just show the guys working.
Can you hear me, Alex?
Yeah, go ahead.
We stream music. It's more important.
So Tony wants to know what is your...
Can you hear me, Alex?
Yeah, all good. What is Tony Loebscher wants to know? What's been your most memorable restoration, Freek? No. Okay, so while we get that connection up and running once more.
Okay, first of all, Tony, we need to ask Tony if he eventually bought that gold.
He eventually bought the gold.
To be quite honest, there's not a single one that actually stands out. I'm going to reboot quickly on my side.
Okay. All right. So while he gets that sorted out here, I'm going to just continue on to some of the nice photos that he shared with me earlier, and we're going to get to that shortly. So if you see some of these pictures that are going to spark some questions, just to give you an idea of the kind of person Freek is, if you haven't picked that up already. So that's full nuts and bolts restorations I showed you earlier. Another even older aircraft, another older classic BMW. He exclusively does the BMW motorcycles, focusing on the airheads. And there's a picture of his man cave that he's in at the moment. And why is that not coming up? There we go. And you can see that this in the middle there, it's a part of an aircraft wing, and it's the bar counter, etc. Some great photos on the wall, and an old picture of the previous South African Airways emblem. And here's some nice shots of him in his spare time, what he gets up to, and taking his daughter flying in the Cub. What a happy and fortunate and privileged little girl to go flying with dad in the Cub. Let them flying around the Winelands area of Durbanville in the Cape Town area. And this is to prove that they're in the Cape Town area. They're Tab Mountain there in the distance. And I know he has a lot of fun flying his little aircraft, low and slow, and air blowing through the wind blowing through your hair. And I think it's just a great life. And this is the photo that hooked me. Taking the boys, flying over the hill out into some strip there in the Tankwa Karoo with another aircraft, and camping, little tent, little blow-up mattress, living the dream. There's a even younger version of a Freek when he grew up with his father having built an airplane, and now the message and the life lessons is carrying on with his own kids with his little airplane too. So I see he's tried to connect up, but we're having serious gremlins on his connection today. And I hope that we manage to at least get to the end of this conversation before it falls over. It looks like he's coming back now. Let's see. Freek, are you there? I see you've changed location. Maybe the internet's stronger from where you're sitting now.
Yeah. I did, yes. Okay, we'll try that. Is it good?
It seems good. So you're going to answer Tony's question.
Tony, I'm not actually sure if there's a specific one that stands out, to be very honest. They are, and I say this to the clients as well, every single one that I restore, I treat as if it's my own. So the amount of love and care and passion that goes into them are exactly the same. I'd say it's more important to me to see, the guy's reaction when they take it or when they phone, and you build up this amazing relationship, and the guys come and visit you a month or a year or whatever later, and they come and show up their restoration. That for me is what it's all about. It's about connecting people again. Especially, I see a lot of family, dads and grandfathers and that kind of thing, connecting through this. So I think that's more special for me than actually the motorcycle itself rolling out. And that's, again, it's a passion. So one that would stand out. Honestly, I'm sitting here thinking there's not a single one that stands out. They're all equally amazing for me.
No, that's awesome, Freek, and I can hear the passion in your voice. The idea that each one is a journey in itself, and I love that. That's your approach. So when this vehicle arrives and you start talking to the owner about it, they're sharing a piece of history, because generally the aircraft, the motorcycle is around 20, 30, 40 years old. And so it's got a life story, and the fact that it's still alive, as it were, you can now dig into the story and understand where it's been and what it's been up to. Oh no, Freek, we're losing you again. Okay, folks, listen, it's been a great conversation, but it's been a bit kind of higgledy-piggledy with the connection here. Let's see if I got the last couple of pictures to give a reboot with Freek's connection. I'm not sure if it's going to work this time. Let's see. He's back. Okay, are you back? Let's see.
I've actually just reset the Wi-Fi, and that seems to have done the trick. So Airbus 101.
Why is it doing that? I don't know, but it did this yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know, but I reset it and it stopped doing it for a while, so I don't know.
Okay, cool. I was just asking you, or I was just commenting on the history of each motorcycle that arrives there. I mean, it's great that you want to know the story to it, and that it gives you that chance to buy into the owner's dream and vision of it too, and you become part of the story too, as you leave your fingerprint on it, and then when he rolls out of there. So tell us about some of those stories. What stories stand out?
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned, because every single one that we do, back in the day, the ladies in Munich that did the pinstriping, they would sign the underside. So I do the same on all the body panels. I actually sign it. You'll never see it unless you take it off. But for me, that's quite important. Like you say, I leave my mark on it. And it's just, I can relate to flying. I mean, we've got the most amazing colleagues and friends. I've never met such a bunch of gentlemen in my life. Really, I doubt if there's an industry in the world that has got that. And they're really genuine people. And I see a lot of that, with this. It's amazing. I've never once had anyone ask me for a detailed invoice or, give me proof that you did this or did that. It's just on trust. And, a bit of my marketing tool is, people say to me, yeah, but how do I know? How do I know? And I say to them, go onto social media. I always, if I restore a bike for Alex, then I will say, Alex is this, this part of restoration. And usually Alex will comment somewhere in the comments. And I say to people, go there and, instant message or direct message him, ask him his experience with the restoration, because there's no point me telling you how awesome it's going to be. Speak to the people that's been through here, and whether they do it or not, I don't know. But that's how I do business. It must speak for itself.
But that's amazing as well, because this is branched where it was segue into a conversation that we had the other day. So I'm about to embark on a new journey too. I've already started something new outside of South African Airways, and next week I'll be handing back my permit and things. So it's a bit of an emotional roller coaster at the moment. But social media has allowed us, which is what I'm focusing on in my business now, has allowed us to connect with people, firstly all over the world, but also directly to business owners, to previous customers, where if you were to rewind the clock 20 years, how does that customer find a previous customer? It's not so easy, but now you can just go to the website, you can see who's commented, ask them the questions, and that sort of instant connection with photos, with detail, it really is amazing to have that as a resource at the moment.
To give you an idea, I hear you, and I mean, we all complain about social media and our kids and iPads and Minecraft and all those things that rob them of most of their day, but it's got so many good things to offer. And the Federal Aviation Authority, the FAA in the States, I fell off my chair. I bought this 1941 Piper Cub a couple of years ago, and it has a serial number like a car or a motorcycle, and I just sent it to the FAA and I said, this is the serial number. And interestingly enough, that exact Cub that you've got shown there was previously owned by Colin Gibson in SA.
Another great individual. Oh, wonderful man.
Yeah, I didn't even know. And before him, I believe another SA guy. So yeah, these airplanes, they say you never own them. Hey, you're just a custodian. They will get passed on and they'll make other families happy. So it was quite amazing to just send this to the FAA. And I said, look, if you've got anything, again, this is my passionate side coming through, wanting to get as much as I can information on the airplane's history. And they sent me, I think it's about a 3-page document on where it served in the American War, the month it left the factory, even a photo attached what it looked like when it left the factory. And it was just, wow. This is maybe why I'm into classic airplanes and classic bikes, because there's a story. It's got soul. That's basically it.
I think that really is in your DNA, Freek, the way you describe things. You clearly do like to understand the background and the meaning, and it also reminds me a lot of Gideon, who was commenting earlier. He doesn't look at an airplane or a vehicle or a thing. He looks at the story behind it. What does this mean, and what has it done, and whose lives has it in touch? So on the back of that, and I know you're a passionate family man too. You're passionate about old classic vehicles and aircraft. But tell me, you told me about this camping trip, and this was coming up in 2 weeks' time. Before we flew, 2 weeks before this photo was taken, and you were in anticipation of this event coming. Tell me about this photo and what it means to you, taking your son camping. Was it the Tankwa Karoo?
It was, but Gideon Langeveld is actually a part of the story, believe it or not. So,
okay, I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah. So Gideon and his brother, we flew with Chris Langeveld, a very respected individual as well. 2 amazing brothers, and Chris and I, we got along famously. I mean, a Joburg trip from Cape Town was way too short for our chats. And Chris was an amazing restorer. Gideon can confirm this, but I think he even restored classic Mercedes models for Mercedes SA. So Yeah, Chris and I obviously hit it off with that respect, but they owned a Piper Cub as well, and it's also yellow, same story. And when I flew with Gideon, started chatting, and Gideon, why must I buy a Cub? And he said, "Let me start." And the search started for a Cub. And then one day Gideon phoned me. And he said, "Phone this guy. He's got a Cub, and I believe he's selling it." And I phoned him, and he said, "No, he's already sold it. Sorry." So eventually, about 2 years later, I found another Cub, this one that I own, and I don't know why. Just guys being guys, I just text him and say, "Well, guess what? Finally got my Cub." Kind of like had to look for his number. We haven't spoken for 2 years, and I've never met the guy. And he actually flies for SAF Air, and he didn't know exactly what I'm talking about. And he just phoned me out the blue, and he said, "So what's your plan with the Cub?" I said, "I don't know. I'm going to enjoy it and fly it, and expose my kids to aviation." And he said, "Okay, well, like you mentioned, now 2 weeks from now, let's just fly somewhere. I'll send you a pin." And he just sent me a location pin, which wasn't a location; it was just a pin. And he said, "Just fly there. I'll see you there." And I put my son in the airplane, and we flew there. It really is like landing on the moon. There's nothing. It's the Tankwa Karoo. Very special place for adventure motorcyclists and also airplanes pilots. And we landed there, and there is a little. I made a little YouTube clip of it, and we landed in the Tankwa. And in the clip, my GoPro is on the wing, and you'll see a guy walking up just after landing. And I open the door and I shake his hand, and that is when I met him. I've never seen him before in my life, and we just got the kids to, his son's the same age. We got them to collect a couple of pieces of wood and from the bush, and we made a fire, and together we solved the world's problems. It's just pilots are the same. We are, I don't know if we're very interesting or very simple, but yeah.
So was this the person that you met, the person that you bought the aircraft off? Is that who you're talking about, that you met?
No, he owned one, and I tried to buy his, but he had already sold it on. So
okay.
Yeah, so it was quite funny. I mean, you could just see that he's an amazing guy as well, and he's with a local airline. And we still chat, and our sons keep asking us, when are we going to do this again? And it's just amazing. We sleep under the stars, and drank some whiskey, and just figured life out. So it's pretty easy.
Nice. Yeah, very good life. Well, I mean, clearly the passion comes through in stories and in the detail that you put into the projects that you get involved in. So now let's fast forward a little bit, and I really want to just get a sense of, I don't know, when was it for you? Was it the last week of August, or when did you go and hand your permit back at South African Airways?
I don't want to say I've blocked it out, but I had to close that chapter. So just probably about 2 weeks ago. You're right, and Alex, you might find the same. I don't know. I checked out in Cape Town. If it's the same in Johannesburg, I'm not sure. But what really, you need closure. None of us wanted to stop flying there. It's just the way that the world is the way that things aren't. It is what it is. We just had to adapt and accept it. But there's always something small that hits, and you remember that. And I'll never forget the day that I walked in there, and they said, "You sign all these papers and you do all these things," and then they asked, "Where's your permit?" And we've got two. We've got the SAA ID permit, and then you've got the CMC, the crew member certificate. And as you know, anywhere in the world you walk, it's like an FBI badge. You flash that thing, people let you through. And it's just amazing. I mean, that's really your golden ticket to just pass through an airport and shortest possible route. And it literally opens doors for you. So that does. At the end of your checkout process, they said, "Where's your permits?" And I showed them, and they said, "You can just put them there." And I must actually send you the pic, but it was a big black rubbish bin, and you chuck your permit in there. And that's when I realized, that's it. This is it. That means so much to me. I mean, if you forgot your permit, you can't go and fly for the day. They won't even let you through the security. So it ended up in the bin, and I looked at that, and I actually took my phone out and I took a photo of my permit lying amongst a million other ones, just million, but felt like it. And that's it. And I came home, and I was emotional. I'm not even going to be ashamed to say it. I was really emotional, and I just said to my family, just let me be, give me an hour or so, because this is it. I'm not going to sit and cry about this forever, but right now I need this. And I woke up the next morning and that's it. It's the new hand. We're playing this now, and it's done. And I have the fondest memories of the airline, and I'm sure every single guy tuning in on this show can say the same. It's been an amazing journey.
Yeah, and just like the story of the motorcycle, it was someone's dream, and then it ended up in the farm rusting somewhere. And luckily, it didn't get binned, but then it came back to life, and you restored it. And while that has a history and a story too, part of your life's journey is this. I mean, it's a big chunk of time. 12 years serving one. I mean, I always use the word serving. I've served at South Africa because to me it is still, and it was a service. Like you're providing a service to the company, to passengers, to the airline, to the country, to the world, to aviation at large. And serving for 12 years, it's not an insignificant amount of time. Your kids grew up in the airline. You took them on flights with them. You've got photos of your kids in the cockpit. That walking through an airport with the uniform. You're proud. And I must say, I made the decision quite swiftly that I would go through with this, the severance, the early option of the severance, to kind of get closure and to move on, and the noise that's going on now to say, well, it's been a great journey, and something else has opened up now, and it's time to go. However, rewind about 4 weeks ago, I got on an Airlink aircraft. I jump seated down to Port Elizabeth, and I got to be very honest with you, Freek. I was in my uniform. SAA was a different place because of COVID, so it looks a bit like a ghost town. You have to go in a funny entrance. But when I walked onto that airplane, I hadn't been on an airplane like through the airports in South Africa for months now. When I got on that airplane with Airlink, the captain was in his last 2 weeks with Airlink. He just managed to fly again. I started doubting myself. Like, have I made the right decision? Because this is amazing. Start, taxi out. Look at the windsock. It looks so beautiful. We're lining up on 03 left, which I've done so many times. I mean, the feeling of power, the engine's kicking in and accelerating, that jab into the seat and rotation and clapping it in the air, turning out for Port Elizabeth. Honestly, I sat the whole way to PE writing notes in my notepad to do a 2,000-word article on just how amazing flight is. And I wondered, did I do the right thing? Was it too soon? Did I jump the gun here? I don't know, because right now, sitting in this airplane, I don't actually know. So yes, well, it's a journey.
I hear you, and the only thing that I can add is we are obviously, enough people tell us we're super analytical. We want to know how something works, and if it's not working, we need to fix it. And we also taught to be 5 minutes or whatever ahead of any decision or thing that might happen in the aircraft. So you try and be ahead of the game the whole time. What if? A little bit weird actually, because I end up spending my life like that. Going away for a weekend, and I take my dogs along. It's just something I do. It takes me 2 seconds, but you just Google the closest vet and take a screenshot of it. So should your dog get bitten by a snake or whatever, you've got the details on your phone, because everybody's going to panic. So it's just the way that you live. You anticipate and you kind of plan ahead. And I think this COVID, and also where the airline went in the last couple of months, there's just nothing that you can do. This powerless feeling of I'll fix it if I can, but there's nothing we can do. And I just don't know if I wanted to carry on with this uncertainty forever. And I just like you say, luckily I didn't fly in an airliner, because I might have had the same doubt as you had. But I firmly believe that we think that SAA is the be all end all, and there isn't life after SAA, and that's ridiculous, because we know that there is, and you're not lucky, you make your own luck. So I'm not going to walk around with my head down and just kick stones, because I'll miss all the open doors. So I did exactly that. I keep my head up high and do what I can, and already opportunities knocked on my door, and I'm actually quite proud to say I'm doing my first flight tomorrow in corporate. So I am. You have no idea. I'm really wondering what to pack. So
can I tell you, Freek? So about within 5 days of that feeling, it took me a while to shake that feeling, because it was a jump seat down from Joburg, hour and a half on a Embraer. It was an hour and a half drive to the place I was going, Kenton. I mean, when I arrived there, my family was there ahead of me. It took me the rest of the day to shake the feeling. The next day I woke up and I felt a bit better about my decision, and the next day I felt even better. But within a week, I'd made contact with a flying school in Port Elizabeth. They fly a little sling aircraft, Madiba Bay Flying School. Met up with Ryan and Jerry, the owner there. And the next thing, I was in a sling, and we were going flying, and we had this live show in a sling, and we were taxiing out, and it just felt amazing. Like, I can't describe how amazing it felt to be strapped into an airplane again. We didn't even get airborne. We had trouble. We had a mag drop on the holding point. But it felt like I flew. I was like on cloud 9 for about 5 days afterwards. It just felt amazing to strap into an airplane again. And that's the real beauty of flight. And I see Gideon's making a comment. He's saying, I think you should get a Cub, Alex. I think so too, Gideon.
I was just about to say, when are you coming flying in a Cub, Alex?
Definitely.
Because it couldn't be more basic. To climb into a Cub, you've got 4 instruments, and the pilot sits at the back and your passenger's in the front. You've got 4 instruments, and as soon as your passenger climbs in, you can't see any of them anyway because he blocks all of them. So, to think that you go from that to an airliner, that's almost as long as a rugby field that's behind you. But, somebody once said, the distance from your nose to the dashboard doesn't change. And that's so true. Doesn't matter what you fly. It's flight. It's the magic of just, being airborne. And it's like you're disconnected, as soon as you're airborne, all the bull stays behind. It's all on the ground, the politics. We don't bring that into the cockpit, as you know. So that's all gone. We don't deal with it. And we just have fun and respect each other and make the flight an absolute blast. And I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm getting people saying, Poca Lehapa saying, I'm choking up based on our stories there. But I can tell you, Poca, I was very close to choking up. And I was a passenger just going from A to B, and I was feeling it. And, well, next week I'm handing back my permit too. And Rihanna said she also threw her permit in the box, 42 years, drop it in the box. That was very emotional. So that's why we're having this conversation, because next week it's my chance. And Tony once again saying, well done, thanks for sharing so much. Well, thank you, Freek. It's been a wonderful conversation, but despite the technical challenges, clearly you're a very passionate individual. No, it's been great to share, and people can see that you are attention to detail, but it's actually more about the story and the what does this thing represent in the world rather than an item. It has a story, and you have a story, and we have a shared story at South African Airways, and I wish you all the best with. We didn't even mention. So is it? It's FD Classic Works. Is that the name? Is that correct? How do people get hold of it?
It's actually the whole full long name is Final Drive Classic Works, and the final drive is a specific part on a BMW, being a call it a diff. Some technical people will shoot you for calling it a differential, but it's a final drive, which is a chainless system on up to the latest models as well. They still have a drive shaft. So Final Drive is where the name came from. But FT Classic Works. We in Cape Town, and we are about to double space now. We got the factory next door. We've got a full manufacturing plant going on, making discontinued BMW parts, restoration. We don't even get to all of it, but it's exciting stuff. And please, if you find yourself in Cape Town, especially you, Alex, come and fly the Cub. And the door's always open. Gideon's famous saying, life's too long rather for bad coffee. He's right. So we've got some good coffee going here. So please, anyone pop in, you're more than welcome.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Freek. I appreciate it. I'm definitely taking you up on the Cub, the coffee, the motorbikes, the factory, the story. Your room looks amazing there too. Thanks so much for sharing Heritage Day with me on the show. Thank you for all the listeners too. I wish you all the best at Final Drive, Freek, and we'll catch up sometime in Cape Town soon.
Thank you, Alex. Enjoy your braai. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Cheers.
Well, thank you, everyone. It's been a fun show. It's been a bit up and down and technically, but we had a good conversation. I love the stories of the passion, etc. It all comes through in stories, and wow, what a story! And I think the story's not over yet. I think there's still more to come too. But so far, so good. That's where we get to today. Enjoy your braai, everybody. I'm going to go and light a fire now with my kids, and this is High Performance Teams. Happy Heritage Day.